Hello, you are listening to the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. Your host, Erica Sakosio, invites you to join her community of passionate and inspiring leaders in the ECE field, where she discusses, reflects, and shares the best ways to invest in our children, families, teachers, and community. Because after all, we know they are the heartbeat of any successful program.
Welcome back to another episode of the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Sakosio, and today we are going to talk about putting together your own professional development. And I'm going to call this episode Beyond the Surface, Elevating Early Childhood Education. Have you ever attended a workshop or a conference or PD day and thought, oh my God, I could have done better? Or you're tired of superficial trainings that, just kind of skim over the topic and you really crave genuine connections? Well, today's episode is for you. So we are going to talk with Anna from Early Years Thriving. She is passionate about creating professional development and public speaking. And guess what? So am I. So this is going to be super candid. We're going to talk about why it's important for you as an ECE leader, no matter what phase in your journey you are in, to think about how your voice can help others in the field. What knowledge, skills, experiences do you have that you can create, your own professional development? So welcome to the show. So tell folks a little bit about yourself and your business and a little bit of how you got to here, to on the most exciting show ever, the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. Walk us through it.
Okay, so I started working in childcare in 2007, so that's about 17 years ago. I fell in love with working with the really young children, so naturally I went into early childhood education. I jumped into it and was so excited and got into the field and realized, so much of what I learned is not happening in the field. What am I doing here? And so I would just very passionately talk to colleagues and, ECE friends about what was going on in my program or how we could do things, differently, or about what I just attended, like a workshop or the reading that I had been doing. And people started saying to me, you should do workshops, like you should facilitate workshops. And I was like, no. It was a hard no for many years. And I really felt like I didn't have enough experience to even be, presenting workshops at all. So I guess it was about 5 to 7-ish years into my practice that, I started working at a college. I started taking on more capacity building roles with the educators themselves. And then I kind of felt a little bit more ready for it. I felt the most ready because I was requested seriously to do it. And I also have a really great partner, my husband, who had been encouraging me for a really long time and helped me get started. So it was this combination of, feeling ready, feeling like I had enough experience and education, and having the right people who I could trust to give me that first start. And of course, the first time I presented a professional development, I was like, whoa. I love this. I love just connecting with educators. I love feeling like that spark, the love of learning is just kind of like in the room. And then it just blossomed from there. And I decided to go back to school. I'm still in school. So I'm completing a Master of Education in Early Childhood Education. And I think I'm just going to keep going for as long as I can because I love learning. I would say just as much as I love presenting professional development and teaching and speaking and doing all that kind of stuff, because they really go hand in hand, right? And then throughout all of it, I just acquired lots of different experiences from working in early intervention, working as a supervisor, working in colleges. And I've really been able to piece all of these different experiences alongside research and articles and what I've been learning in school to be able to deliver, I think, really well-received professional development now.
So many things you said resonate with me. We have a lot in common. And yes, I love when people are excited and engaged. That's why I'm always like, with the online training, I'm like, it is not the same as in person. Something magical happens when people come together. They share their stories. They share their knowledge. And also, I think when people come together from different experiences, backgrounds, education levels, right? I think you can always help somebody, even if it's your very first year in the field. You have something special, unique that no one else has that you can share with them. So, what would you say? Or actually, I'm going to say, describe a workshop that you have led that you feel has made a lasting impact on your participants.
All right. So to answer that, I'm going to say it hasn't been just one. The one that I can think of that left a really lasting impact was a series. It was a gathering, a community of practice that was put together over 6 sessions. And I've done it a couple of times with different topics, but the one that stands out for me is one that I just recently presented and facilitated on play. And what the amazing thing about play is that we can talk about play and how it supports inclusion, play and how, it can really be a gateway to reassessing your environment, looking at your materials, even thinking about your curriculum and documentation. Like there are so many different ways that we can think about how to integrate play and how it intersects with different areas of our program is one that left a really good lasting impact. And it showed in the feedback, because the feedback that always warms my heart when I get the feedback and they're like, I wanted to do this for like 6 more sessions, or I want more, learning more with Anna. So I really love that one. I would say if there was one that I can think of that was like actually just one and it was done in a day, it would have to be one that I presented in Kelowna, BC, and it was for a school district and also childcare. So there was a mix between primary school teachers and early childhood educators, which was really, really beautiful. And we talked about play and a trauma-informed approach to play, and also integrated our early learning framework in that, to talk about how we would conduct ourselves in different play scenarios that sometimes make us feel really uncomfortable. And that one had really great testimonials at the very end as well. And it was one of those, moments where I had people coming up to me afterwards just being like, that was amazing. And you could just feel that reciprocated respect in the room as well, because we had so much open dialogue. That was a really lovely one.
I would have to say my favorite, which wasn't necessarily a workshop, but was a strategic planning meeting that I did at my own school for my own company. And we did it on a Saturday, and we went together like 7 hours, but it was so hands-on. It was so engaging. The staff learned so much about the inner workings of the school, like the business side and their piece in that. I feel like that impact lasted like about 6 months. They were probably ready for another one after 6 months, but the first 6 months, they just asked so many questions and were so engaged, and were just like, hey, I did this in the class, and, I feel like this can make it better for parents, or so their feedback, all those things really did help me want to continue to do strategic planning meetings on a very regular basis. So those are kind of my favorite when we get into some types of strategies. So let's say that somebody's thinking about doing it like you had for a while. What techniques do you use to keep participants engaged during workshops?
I would say definitely, I've leaned into making more opportunity for reflecting together. I think early in my career, I made the mistake of just wanting to dump a bunch of information on the participants, right? Because I felt like I want to share this. And I felt very tied to my slides. So it was like I would have 60 slides, which is way too many for like a 2-hour workshop, like trying to get through. But now I lean into more like asking reflective questions, leaving space for dialogue. And what's funny about online, because I know you were talking about like doing things in person and online, I find the engagement is more rich in person, but the interesting thing was going from having all my experience in person to getting online and now going back to in person. What I loved about being online was really letting people sit in silence when they didn't want to chat. And I have this funny thing that I do where I will literally say to the group, all right, here's the question. Now we can sit in silence, awkward silence, or we can have a conversation starting now. And I will just sit there and it will last about 15 seconds most of the time. Once it really did go on for almost a whole minute. And sitting in silence for a minute, it's rough, you know. But I also like to use humor as well, right? To
Mhm.
get people engaged. That's the other thing too, is like when I've gone to professional developments and or, workshops or even attending a class and the person is so monotoned
Mhm.
and it's just about facts. Like I won't remember all of that, but I will remember the experience. So I think it's about also the experience that you're giving people, right? Like making sure that there's space for everybody's voice to be heard if they want their voice to be heard, getting people feeling something, maybe giggling a little bit. I love to throw in little jokes here and there and just throw in that personality that's, not just me as this dry educator, but like spicy, right, Erica? I can see
Mhm.
that you have that spice too. We just gotta throw in that spice. A couple of other things I like to do too is like I'll do games, right? Whenever I can, we'll do some games. I like to get them in small groups. I like to, if it's a beautiful day outside and we're talking about observations, let's go outside. Let's practice our observation skills outside, a couple other things, of course, I always bring a handout. I'll give a handout or, some space or something for people to take notes. And I like to create lots of visual opportunities. So whenever I can, I'll, show a video of, let's say we're talking about play and what we would do next in making curriculum. Then I'll show a video and I'll say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's like create the web right now, right? So I like to get people's emotions moving, bodies moving, mind thinking, and to feel something and be able to voice our opinions, creating this space where people can be heard.
So, what I take from all of that very great nuggets of knowledge that you've just shared is two things. Number one is when you do that reflective practice, you make the workshop about them, not about you, right? So when it's reflective, it's what do you think, not what I want you to think. So I think that's really important. And the second thing that I love that you said was use multiple ways to drive the message home. And we have to understand that adults learn differently, just like children learn differently. So, as you said, some people might talk, some rather sit back. Maybe there's a video, maybe there's writing. So, I think that that's also important when you're putting something together to have at least two or three different aspects on how they will learn during that. So, you shared some really great things there. What challenges have you ever faced when creating workshops?
I would say I haven't found too many challenges in creating workshops, but I've definitely encountered challenges presenting workshops. Mostly managing groups, I would say, in my early days, mostly because you look so young. And that's why I always open with, I have 17 years of experience because I've actually had somebody say to me, you look like you're 19. And I'm like, no, you know what? It's the bone broth soup. Thank you so much to say to that, right? It's good vitamins. I don't know. I do exercise. But like, so that's one of the things that I've had to encounter as like a young looking professional. I had to learn how to, after having these situations and going back and reflecting, I've learned to really have boundaries and like set up those boundaries in the beginning. Set up the disclaimer, right? State that I am not a 19-year-old. Like we're gonna make this interactive today, but that also means being respectful when we're in this professional development together. That also looks like, hey, if we disagree with each other, that's okay, but we still need to respect each other when we're communicating with each other. That also looks like if we're talking about a really challenging, concept or something that might trigger some really strong emotion, like we're talking about, racism, or we're talking about oppression, or we're talking about trauma, like if anything is bringing up emotions for you, like that's a good signal for you to check in with yourself, and feel free to like get up and go grab a tissue, go outside, grab a drink of water, go get some fresh air, right? Like, and I've gotten better at reading the room and knowing how to manage those situations. So My challenges have never really come from creating the content. I feel like that's like a flow. The slides come and the ideas and the linking of the ideas, they come. And also, my husband has helped me with structure so much because I'm an ideas person. Everything connects. My brain is just a web, but he's helped me with creating structure. But my challenge has mostly come from those experiences, right? Of like dealing with not only in the session, but after the session too, because there's going to be people who, there's very few, but some people leave some really nasty things in the feedback form. There's like 100 people who are like, this was amazing. And then there's one person who's like, seems like this person has their own trauma to deal with. Seems like Anna's got so much trauma. But then even though, that feedback, I learn from it too, because I go, wait a minute, what in this session made that person think that I have, unresolved trauma? Like, was it a particular story? Was it a way that I communicated something? So all of that, as hard as it is, it's all learning for us as facilitators.
So yes, anybody who's presented before have had all of those same challenges. So that is not a you thing. That is a group thing for sure. And I talk a lot, but we had a teacher that talked all the time. And sometimes we had to say, before we start the meeting, could we give other voices an opportunity to talk at this meeting? So sometimes, like you said, that disclaimer at the beginning, asking people to be respectful, shut off their phones, that you're present and you need them to be present too, for them to get the most out of it. So how do you decide what topics that you really want to dig deeper into? And maybe share a time that maybe you've adjusted your content, because I thought we were going to talk about one thing, and then as we start to talk, it starts to blossom, right? Because when we want people to be reflective, then we start to really engage into some meaningful conversation. So tell me a little bit about, an experience that you might have had where maybe you had to adjust a little bit.
Okay, so I'll answer the first part of that.
Okay.
So I actually have not had to come up with my own topics. And if you go on my website, you'll see there are so many titles, and I've categorized them because over the years, these have been requested from me. So I've actually not really, aside from, I would say, the trauma-informed approach to play, I have not actually had to come up with the content. It's like I'll just get a request. And over the years, because I've been doing this now, the workshops for about going on 8 years, almost 9 years, I just create based on what has been requested of me, which has been very beautiful. And it's just kind of grown and grown and grown. Like, I've presented over 300 workshops. I have over 50 unique topics and titles, titles, and they've all been categorized into topics now. So that's how that has happened. And then people always ask me, like, how do you have so much content? I'm like, it's just because of being requested. Can you do this? And as a research ECE dork, I love it. I'm like, yes, I can. And let's figure it out. No, I'm not talking about that. That's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
So have I ever had to adjust content? I would say yes. And I do it constantly. I do it constantly because I'll present a workshop and then somebody will say to me, hey, wait a minute, this area of this workshop around play that you were talking about documentation, can you talk more about documentation? Can you do more on that? So that's how that's also kind of like scaled out, because it's just been like dissecting. It started with, I want to say, like one workshop where, remember I said I used to dump everything in? That has just dissected and been dissected and, shifted and molded and expanded and scaffolded into like what it is now. And that's why when you go on my website, I have like so many workshops because of that.
You're speaking my language. So so like I started podcasting about a year ago. I have 280 episodes in a year, right? Because you just start ripping things apart, and then you can that really helps you, again, not have superficial, just kind of glance over. You can really get to the heart of what it is that you're trying to drive home. How do you empower early childhood educators to take on leadership roles in their communities through workshops?
So years ago, I started a training called Workshop Facilitator Training. And the reason I began that training is because, I had been presenting a ton of workshops in person. Then we know 2020 happened. In 2020, I facilitated over 100 workshops in 1 year online. And I burnt myself out. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with this. I don't want to do anything to do with workshops. But the requests still kept coming in. And I just felt like there's so much work out there and there's so much need for this. And I can't do it all by myself. And I truly have like an abundant mindset, right? Like I've worked so hard to get to this point where it's like, I truly believe in abundance. And so I created this workshop facilitator training to really help early childhood educators who want to share a positive impact, share their voice, even to bring back that spark and love of education for themselves. Because that's what happened with me when I started facilitating workshops. Doing this work is so empowering for early childhood educators because once they acquire these skills of public speaking, of creating content with structure, by the way, because my husband helped me with that one, and they tap into their creativity, their innovative side. Like I've seen early childhood educators who have gone through my program, they have just blossomed. And some of them are out there like regularly facilitating workshops because I helped them to hone in on those skills and really develop those skills. And they're amazing, like I see them all over the place, and every once in a while I'll get like a really nice message from somebody who has gone through my training. And I always say, give me the updates, because that's what really fills up my cup. Like I want to be your biggest cheerleader. I want to help you, go out there and like share your message and find these workshop gigs for you, right, and like help you out. And so every once in a while, I'll get like these really nice messages from people just being like, now I'm on my 7th or 8th workshop now, and it's been so empowering and it's so amazing. And, I actually like did not realize that I could do this. And now I feel, so great about myself to be able to do this. Or, I've been able to supplement my income with this work that I'm doing because I was previously working somewhere else. A lot of early childhood educators, they work in a different place, in a different role, or they leave the field altogether. And so what I've seen through workshop facilitator training is a lot of them end up actually finding their passion again, which is around what was happening to me. Like I was almost about to leave the field, and it's been workshops and presenting, doing this work, networking and taking on capacity building roles and connecting with educators and really feeling that positive impact. That's what's kept me here.
And I think as we grow as professionals, you can start to feel a little stagnant, and you keep asking yourself, is there more for me? Is there more? I'm 54 and I'm like, I'm not done. I've just started scratching the surface. I'm going to keep talking and keep sharing. Probably till they put me in the ground because my kids say I'm a little obsessed. But I love UCE. I love teaching. I love people. And those two things just come together beautifully. So as we start to wrap up, can you share with us your vision for the future of professional development in the field of early childhood education?
So I think that, what I would love to see in early childhood is more ECE voices in the professional development field, because although it is amazing to hear from doctors and psychologists and counselors who all have, their education and training in early childhood, is not the same as working in a childcare program. And that's why my workshop facilitator training program is specifically for early childhood educators. Now, I do have a disclaimer on that because when I am actually going through the intake process with people who want to learn how to do what I do, I ask them, why are you doing this? And if their answer is because I don't even like working on the floor, or because I'm looking for a different job, or like things like that, I'm like, no, that's a big red flag, because I think that professional development needs to be delivered by early childhood educators for early childhood educators, but early childhood educators who are really passionate about ECE, who love the field, who are doing this for good reasons and a good purpose. So that's the bit that I wanted to say on that, but I wanted to circle back to something really quickly that you said about early childhood educators and adults being like different learners. There are different
Mhm.
types of learners in ECE. So when I think of, what I hope for ECE is I hope that there is more space for a diversity of the different modes that people can learn and have that all be honored, because not everybody is going to be able to sit down and read an article. Some
Mhm.
people are going to rather listen to a podcast, right? Listen to Erica's podcast and still be able to learn and absorb from that mode of learning. Just like, I love the in-person stuff. I love conferences. I love connecting with groups that are like hundreds of people in the audience. I also really love those workshops where there's like 10. And that to me is just as valuable as being in a
Mhm.
room with hundreds, or even the online piece, right? Like there are self-paced workshops out there, and I have many of them on my website, like self-paced workshops that are amazing for people like me who like, I got 3 children. Sometimes I just want to like log into a
Mhm.
library where I can binge because it's like the week that my kids are actually all in school. Nobody's got runny noses, right? Knock on wood. But then there are also times in my life where I'm like, I need that deep, rich learning with a group or a cohort. So
Mm.
I'm going to join a course or a community of practice or like a series of workshops and
Mhm.
do it in person. So I just hope, and what my hope is for ECE is like that all these different modes of learning are respected, because we all go through different needs at different times and we're all different types of learners. Now, what I hope doesn't happen though with that is that somebody clings on to like just doing everything self-paced, just doing everything auditory, the
Mm.
auditory way, just only doing, because I see that a little bit too in ECE. Like I see people who really push like this way is better, that way is better. I don't like to say that any way is better, to be honest. I think they all have a place in ECE, and we just have to make the room an opportunity to honor that, hey, we're all different learners. And sometimes, I love learning from listening, but sometimes I really love just picking up
A
my
book.
paper or like a book and just
Mhm.
sitting and highlighting and reading, right? But I don't get to do that always. But whenever I can, I want to
Yeah.
be able to do it. So just having that space where all modes of learning are respected.
Yeah, I think that is beautiful, and I love your vision of having practitioners in the mix, people who are in the field doing the actual work because they can understand the day to day, and even just from somebody who's been in the field a long time, what we're facing right now today looks different than 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. If you haven't been in a classroom in 10 years, these are different classrooms now.
Yeah.
Different children, different families, right? There's a lot of things to consider. And I also my vision would be to have more voices of diversity in general, more voices, especially my male educators in early childhood. I beg you guys to come to the mic and share as well, because I think they also bring a wealth of knowledge and a different perspective on things. So thank you so very, very much for being on our show. Tell folks where they can find you.
Well, you can head over to my website, www.earlyyearsthriving.com. I also have my own website. If you Google my name, Ana Vale Rivera, it's right there. And same with the social medias, right? You just put that little A sign, the little handle sign in front, and you'll find me.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you join our mailing list to stay up to date on the latest ECE trends, learn what's coming up, different events, connect with the Child Care Director Chair community, because you don't want to miss out. Thank you, and as always, have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode. of the Child Care Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Child Care Director's Chair.